My work is actually at the intersection of artificial intelligence and robotics, and within that space we look at developing new mathematical models and computer algorithms so that robots and machines can learn on their own. And a big portion of our work is in taking these techniques and deploying them for healthcare systems. And so we've been developing a smart robot wheelchair, which is helping people with mobility disorders. I have to say my work is very curiosity-driven, and so in many cases, it's just the pleasure of thinking about solving a new problem, a bit seeing it like a puzzle. I love the freedom to explore new questions, the freedom to just jump into a new topic and dive as deep as I want in exploring these ideas.
I believe that our research is of relevance to Canadians because we first identify the genetic determinants of common disease and then use this information to improve their care. What inspires me to do my research? Well, that's really easy. It's the patients. So I have been fortunate to have the opportunity to be able to interact with my patients who present to me with a problem, come back to the lab, work on that problem often for many years, and then go back to the clinic with a potential solution. What I love about my job is that I'm able to be creative. So in clinical medicine, we often do what we're told. So we follow a set of rules which has a very good rationale, but doesn't allow very much creativity. On the research side of things, we're able to look at problems in a light that no one else has been able to do previously, and this I find to be tremendously exciting.
My name is Charmaine Nelson, and I'm a professor of art history in the Department of Art History and Communication Studies at McGill University. Fundamentally, my research began with investigations of the representation of Black female subjects in historical Western art. So in looking at that art, what I'm confronted with constantly are power dynamics. Who had the right to represent whom, and did Africans have the right to self-representation? Because enslaved people were so disenfranchised, and in part what that fundamentally meant is that they weren't allowed to leave traces of themselves. So things like birth certificates, baptismal records, don't exist for enslaved populations unless the people who owned them wanted them to exist. And most often you're dealing with people who had a first name only. So part of what drives me and what I'm passionate about then is that search for their names, for their lives, and for their own desires. And really what I'm trying to do is rehumanize the enslaved.
Well, most of the biology that's done in labs today around the world in both industry and medicine are non-social species. We're taking the gene into the social with ants, trying to understand how ant societies work, and by doing so, we're really putting genes into real life. I love those ants. When I take a look at their colonies and I watch them, they fascinate me. I can spend hours and hours and I just forget everything, even that I'm a professor. And they can just teach us so much about the world around us, and I would hope to share that with everybody. Well, my inspiration is my uncle, Abdel-Latif ABOUHEIF, who was a marathon swimming champion and was named the greatest marathon swimmer of the last century. His accomplishments are just incredible, like beyond the imagination, and so that just kept me going. He was my role model.
I'm IRENE GREGORY-EAVES, and I'm a Canada Research Chair in Freshwater Ecology and Global Change. I grew up in British Columbia, where there's still lots of really wild places, and we were interested in sort of the biodiversity of these wild places, and there was lots of threats to them, and so I wanted to get a better scientific understanding of how they function and how we can better protect them. Canada has more lakes than any other country in the world, and we use these lakes for all kinds of important purposes like recreation, drinking water, agriculture, and industrial purposes. And my work is aimed to understand how lakes function and how they've changed over time. It's a real privilege to be an academic and see young students come in with questions and help them work through how to really ask a good question, and then see them collect the data and answer that question. And that's just an incredibly satisfying process.
The area of my research is how to most effectively manage global value chains. I think there are three reasons why it is significant to Canadians. First, if Canada is serious about improving productivity, this is a must-have how to improve Canadian value chains. Second is that if Canadian SMEs want to have a bigger share of the international trade, they need to focus on improving their value chains. And if we want to address the big concerns of our time, whether it is income inequality, climate change, or food security, global value chain management has to be a big part of the overall solution. The reason I am very excited about my area of research are primarily for two things. First is that it brings together concepts from very different fields: engineering, economics, international trade, data analytics, and so on. And the second thing is that I can see how my concepts can add value to the biggest organizations as well as to the smallest NGOs.
The World Health Organization announced that they believe that by 2050, antibiotic resistance will kill more people than cancer. So our work has major significance to Canadians because it aims to protect public health. I'm inspired by the idea that my work can actually have an impact on many people, not only in Canada but all over the world, because our work aims to, for example, protect the quality of our drinking water. What I love about my work is when we make an important discovery that can actually impact other people, not only in Canada but all over the world. For example, when we discovered that maple syrup extract can synergize with antibiotics, and this can help to protect the lives of people who are affected by antibiotic resistance. And of course, I love to work with students. They're motivated, they're fun and young, and they have lots of great ideas.